Hello guys, once again welcome to my channel. This is Chris with Prime Solutions with Chris on YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and please do share the videos and invite your friends to join us, particularly those ones that have interest of coming to Canada. So today, briefly, let's discuss about what I call planning for your studies. I'm not at this stage, we are not even talking about applying for studies. No. You've got to first of all understand what you want to do before you even initiate the process of applying for the program. I will talk in the next few minutes. I will talk about start from, say, for example, undergraduate education, but more importantly, so graduate education, how to plan for your studies. Basically, when it comes to undergraduate education, the most important thing we all know, particularly when you are looking at the school system in our home countries, particularly in Africa. I'm from Nigeria. For those from Nigeria, we know right from our senior secondary school years, we have basically defined the path we are taking or want to take when it comes to areas, a field of interest or areas of study. Is it that you're in the social sciences, or you are in pure sciences, or you are in the arts, or in other words, what it means is that if you're in the social sciences, there are specific subjects that you will take to guide you on that path or in that path. The same thing also for art, and of course the same thing also for science, for those in sciences. So essentially it is very simple. That seems to in many ways inform the graduate program, the undergraduate program you will eventually take when you think of moving to Canada, because that background is completely necessary. It's very necessary for undergraduate program. But for graduate programs, there are many ways you can plan around what you want to do, particularly if you're thinking of moving to Canada for more studies. How do you proceed? Is it so important that, because I took this particular program during my undergraduate years, that I have to proceed on that same path or in that same direction if I want to move to Canada for studies? Or is there a possibility of moving to another area of studies, particularly when you're thinking of maybe changing career or something? For graduate students, one of the things or ways we can think of or plan for our studies is, first of all, ask ourselves the question: are we interested? Which has to really play a role also. Are we interested in continuing that part of our first degree? Say, for example, you took some purely industrial physics, for example, and you are during your undergraduate years. Will you want your master's program, whether research based or course based, to be again in industrial physics? Say you took history, like me, during your undergraduate years. It's a first degree. Do you also want to take masters in history during your graduate years in school? Those are the questions you've got to ask yourself. And sure, if you want to, that is perfectly okay, because you seem to have created that path for yourself, and that is fine, perfectly fine. In fact, it's actually more desirable to do that. But the question is this: if you don't want to continue in that line of education, maybe along the years before you think of applying for graduate program, you have walked long enough and realized, yeah, this is the path that I want to take. at this point in time, what can inform your decision of how to proceed with your graduate education is not necessarily like say, even though of course it's a requirement that you submit transcript and everything from your first degree is a requirement. But should that be the only thing that can inform your line of study during graduate education, particularly when there has been some gaps of working years? No. So your working years should be able to play a role. Your experience as a professional should be able to play a role in making that decision of what program should I undertake in Canada when it comes to graduate education. Does it really matter to them so much, or to the school system so much, that my first degree was industrial physics or history, but I have worked in a different area of life for the past, I've gained experience in a different area for more than 6 years? What should play a bigger role in making that decision for yourself and for the school? Is it the undergraduate degree I took 6 years ago, or is it or 3 years ago, I would say, or is it the work experience I have gathered and I now want to gain more knowledge in that area? I will argue that yes, your work experience is very important in this case. In other words, one thing that can help you make that choice of what do I want to study and why you're planning for graduate studies is, do I want to just continue the path of my undergraduate education? That is important and very almost necessary. If there has not been any substantial years between your first degree and the second degree, and if you have not gathered enough work experience, if you have gathered some years of work experience, what you should be thinking about next is not necessarily okay, this was my first degree, the university will not even look at my work experience when I apply for a different subject, a different area of study entirely. No, they will look at your work experience, because don't forget that while you are submitting your application, and just so you guys know, on this channel we'll talk about every topic, everything that has to do with submitting your application for studies. Everything that matters, we'll talk about it. And on this channel, I will present to you how you can position yourself for better outcomes when it comes to making your application. But right now, it's all about planning. So the university does not just look at the first degree that you've taken some years back, when there has been some years of work experience between that period and now. But if there's no work experience, yes, that first degree matters a lot, except you are able to convince the university that, look, this is why I want to move to a different path when it comes to graduate education, even though I've not had work experience. But the chances there are quite limited. But with some years of work experience in between your first degree and of course potential second degree, Canadian universities will always look at your work experience. It's very, very essential to them, your work experience. Another thing that you'll be asking yourself is, okay, I have my first degree, I've worked in this area. Do I really want to take a master's program? Or do I want to just maybe take a different program that is not even a master's program, maybe like a graduate certificate program, specifically for those that are made for international students, of course, because there are some graduate certificates, maybe a 1-year program that are specifically made for domestic students. But you have to ask yourself, provided you do a good research, does this graduate education, as an international student, can I apply for this as an international student? If the answer is yes, you send in your application. Of course, meeting other criteria, set the criteria and requirement for the program. Again, another thing you should be asking yourself too also is cost. Cost and cost is important. We cannot talk about international education without talking about cost, and also talking about how you can plan around cost if you don't have the funding yourself. Are you looking at some programs that has good funding opportunity? Have you prepared your application? Are you ready to prepare your application in such, or package yourself in such a way to meet the criteria for that program? If you have not and you need some support to do that, you need to get the support you need. Sometimes you need to ask questions. Sometimes you need to approach people that knows better than you to guide you on how you can strengthen your application to be able to secure some form of funding, some form of grants, some form of scholarship to help you fund your education in Canada. So cost is important when it comes to make planning. There are some courses are much costly than other courses or programs. Some universities, on the other hand, are also more costly when it comes to paying your way through, paying your tuition and everything when compared to some other universities. We will talk about all this, but right now, what we just talked about is planning. What can help you to make that plan? Are you just a fresh graduate who wants to move straight to master's program into Canada? Yes, most likely the expectation is that you need to apply for a program that aligns with that first degree you have. But are you someone with a first degree that has had 5 years, 3 years, or more, 3, 4, 5 years work experience, or even more, that now wants to proceed to graduate education? Yes, your first degree can still play a significant role, particularly when it aligns with your work experience. In all cases, definitely, I need to say this clearly, you will still need to support, you still need to provide your transcripts, even if you're moving to a different line of programs from your first degree. But what will really help most decision makers when it comes to who get admitted or not is not so necessarily your first degree, but your experience matters a lot. But to also see that you did so well in your first degree makes a lot of difference. But essentially, I will say it again, your years of experience go a long way to help you to make that choice or have an informed planning before you even start talking of applying to different schools. Another thing which I've said already is, if you want to change, sometimes what will potentially guide you in making that decision is not just because this is my first degree. This is I have worked 5 years work experience. It could also be essentially that, look, what I want to do right now is not so much in line with my first degree. It's not so much in line with my work right now. I have to keep working because I need to make ends meet. But this is what I've grown to love, and I want to explore this area. You have the capacity to convince decision makers when it comes to processing admission that you can do this. Of course, go ahead and apply and provide strong evidence that this is what you want to do and this is why you feel you can succeed in this area. So Canadian education is so flexible depending on how you choose to interpret flexibility. But in this, when it comes to planning of studies, there are so many things that come into consideration when applications are being reviewed. It's not just if your first degree is this and you have to continue with that in your second degree. That is one. It's also, this is my first degree, but I've got some work experience, which will play a significant role in assessing your application. It could also be that, yes, this is my first degree, this is my work experience, but I've got passion for this, and I've maybe even on a personal level developed some interest and knowledge in that area and want to stick, or and not stick, I would say, or want to explore that area particularly because you're convinced you can do better there. The question will then be, it's not about you, it's about you on one hand, knowing, planning on what you want to do, but you are not the one to make that decision. The one that will make that decision in terms of who gets admission or not are the very, very important people that review applications. So how convincing you are in your application is what will help. So take your time out and ask yourself, what do I want to do in time if I want to come to Canada for studies? What program do I want to study? What informed that choice? Is it because I have is related to my first degree? Is it because I have had some experience in that area in terms of work? Or is it because I no experience, not related to my first degree, but I seems to have passion for this? You're not the one to make that decision or eventually get that admission, but it is up to you to strengthen your application and push for success. So while we're on that, subsequently, right now, what we will start talking about, we will start going much more deeper into areas of study and how to package yourself to send your application. This is where it becomes very interesting. So right now, you've got to pay more attention in on this, watching subsequent videos that I will post on this channel. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so right now and hit the notification button, because there are much more deeper information I'll be bringing to your doorstep. Bye.